I want to go over Pete Alonso. I want to talk about why I think he can have a rebound year and why I think last year was kind of a fluke, because you look at his career numbers with runners in scoring position. Um, they're not that bad. Last year, he obviously struggled with runners in scoring position, had below an 800 OPS, a batting average in the low 200s. But let's go over the past since 2020. 2020, he had an 827 OPS with runners in scoring position. In 2021, he had an 809 OPS. In 2022, a 1.075 OPS with those runners in scoring position. And just 2 years ago in 2023, a 912 OPS with runners in scoring position. So you could say all you want that Pete Alonso didn't come up clutch with runners in scoring position during the regular season. But at the end of the day, that was 1 year. That's an outlier year. It's the only time in a full season that he hit less than 40 home runs. First time that he had less than 100 RBIs in a full season. So with that said, I think Pete Alonso will have a better year than he did in 2024. And also with the addition of Juan Soto in that lineup, Pete Alonso is going to get better pitches to hit, and he's also never really had a consistent guy to protect him. He's obviously here now to protect Soto, but who has protected Pete Alonso over the past few years? Guys like J.D. Davis, guys like Jeff McNeil. And I know I was just giving Jeff McNeil a lot of credit before, but Jeff McNeil is not a 5-hitter. He's not a guy who's going to offer you a lot of protection. I just mentioned J.D. Davis, we had a lot of guys, Daniel Vogelback, Darren Ruff, like the list goes on and on. But at the end of the day, Pete Alonso is going to have a consistent hitter behind him, whether it's Mark Vientos or whether it's Brandon Nimmo. He's going to have protection. So the pitcher can't just throw pitches out of the zones. If he improves his pitch selection, which is the biggest problem with him in 2024, the pitch selection, that improves, which we've seen his pitch selection be great before. And like I said, 2020 through 2023, over an 800 OPS with runners in scoring position. So that pitch selection improves. And with Soto probably hidden in front of him, whether it's second or third, I have a hard time seeing Pete Alonso have another down year. So I do think Alonso can improve. You just look at his numbers throughout his career. Outside of last year, he has been one of the clutchest hitters on the Mets. I mean, it's either him or Lindor from 2020 through 2023. So, and at the end of the day, you can say he's declining after one bad year when he hasn't even taken a single at-bat in his 30s yet. I have a hard time seeing him decline again. He's not going to decline. So let's see what Alonso can do this year with Soto in the lineup. I'm definitely excited for it. We'll see what happens. But, Soto did come to spring training today too. Let's mention that a little bit. Soto in spring training hit a bomb to center field. Batting practice. But it's batting practice, nothing too crazy. But, just seeing Juan Soto in the blue and orange, it got the bucket hat return for the pod because Juan Soto's a Met, which means the bucket hat returns, baby. But yeah, I mean, you look at Juan Soto's numbers, he's going to make everybody improve in this lineup. Assuming he hits second, right? Let's say he hits second. He's a guy who draws a lot of walks, right? Who was hitting in front of him? Francisco Lindor, who was the best leadoff hitter in baseball last year, hit over 300, had over an 800 OPS, had over, I think, like 25 home runs out of the leadoff spot. So Lindor in that leadoff spot, hidden in front of a guy like Juan Soto, who gets on base a lot, obviously, out of that leadoff spot. When he's on base, he's a threat to steal second. And just common sense, you don't want to throw off speed when you got a guy like Francisco Lindor on first because that just gives him more time to steal that base. So, that said, Juan Soto's also going to see a lot of fastballs when Lindor's on first base. And we know what Juan Soto can do to fastballs. He can nuke them. So, I think Juan Soto, everybody wants to talk about, oh, well, he had his best year with Aaron Judge in that lineup. I get it. But we can't forget that Francisco Lindor also finished second in NL MVP voting last year. So I think Soto's going to improve off of last year. I don't necessarily think he's going to hit 40-plus home runs like he did last year for the first time in his career. But, I think we can definitely expect 35-plus. He's only 26 years old. Like I said, he's going to have an MVP caliber player hitting right in front of him in Francisco Lindor. So that's also a plus for him because, like I said, he's going to see fastballs when Lindor's on first base. And then let's say Lindor gets on first base. Soto seeing those fastballs. Let's say Soto gets on base with a single, double, or even a walk. Who's up at number 3? Pete Alonso or Mark Vientos or Brandon Nimmo? Probably not Brandon Nimmo. They're probably not going to go back-to-back lefties, so I think it's going to be Vientos or Alonso. I'd personally like to see Alonso because, if you have first and second no outs with Alonso up to the dish, you walk him, then you got bases loaded for a guy like Mark Vientos or even Brandon Nimmo. So that's also going to play a factor there too with those guys behind Juan Soto. But even Francisco Lindor, I mean, do you want to give him good pitches to hit when you got, I mean, do you want to give him good pitches to hit with Juan Soto right behind him? They're going to be very cautious with Francisco Lindor now. And we all know Francisco Lindor has excellent pitch selection. So as long as Lindor's pitch selection stays the same, I think his on-base percentage is going to improve a ton. And 2, you don't really want to walk him because if you walk him, like I said, then you got to pitch Soto fastballs because Lindor can just steal second. So, I mean, this Mets lineup, the way it's shaping up, I think it's perfect. The bottom of the order, like I said on last pod, it's Francisco Alvarez, who's the wild card X factor. Obviously, if Jeff McNeil, like I said before, if he plays great, if he has a full year like he did in the second half of last year, where if he's a shade of his 2022 self, which I think he's going more of the power route now than just the slap ball hidden route, which is nice to see. You do want to see him hit the ball a little bit harder. But the wild card X factor is Francisco Alvarez, who's been talking about this Mets lineup as the best in baseball. He said it's better than the Dodgers lineup. And that's a very hot take, but I love the confidence. He's only 23 years old. He was the number 1 prospect in baseball just a few years ago. So I do expect Francisco Alvarez to finally have that breakout year. What does that breakout year look like? I have no clue. But we can't forget, in 2023, during his rookie year, he had 25 plus home runs. So that's another big factor too. But yeah, I got to break up my dogs real quick. It seems like they're trying to go after each other. We'll shake the treat bucket. But dude, like Francisco Alvarez really has the potential to be a game changer in this lineup because if he is a 25 plus home run hitter, even if he gets on base, just let's say a 330 on base percentage, which isn't even too high. If he has a batting average of 240 plus and he's hitting 25 plus home runs, that's another guy in that lineup who can hit 20 plus home runs because we can already book probably Brandon Nimmo to hit 20 plus home runs. If we can book Francisco Alvarez to also hit 20 plus home runs, then you got to factor in Lindor and Vientos. They can hit 30 plus home runs. Vientos hit 27 home runs in just 110 regular season games. And then Juan Soto, probably I'd say 35 plus. And then Pete Alonso, like I said before, I expect him to have a better year with Soto in the lineup. And I feel like last year was an outlier. I see Alonso also hitting 40 plus home runs again. So that's 6 guys, if Francisco Alvarez produces, that are going to hit at least 20 home runs. That's huge. That's huge. And then half of those guys, 4 of those guys are definitely going to hit 30 plus. And then you got 2 guys who have 40 plus home run potential in Soto and Alonso. So this is he could be a huge factor in this lineup. And, we've seen the clips of batting practice against live BP. Francisco Alvarez is starting to mimic JD Martinez's swing a little bit. So JD Martinez did have a very big influence, obviously, on those young guys such as Francisco Alvarez. So, I'm really excited. The biggest player, like the most exciting player I feel like on this Mets team, most exciting, not best, most exciting is Francisco Alvarez because he's 23.